Hello, and welcome to an introduction to Azure Design and Implementation. My name is Gary Bushy. I'm an Azure certified architect, and I've been involved in some large Azure implementations for Fortune 500 companies. Before we get into the course, there are some prerequisites. One, you must have a basic understanding of what the cloud is and what it entails. You must understand that the cloud is an extremely large collection of servers spread through many data centers, and unlike your servers that you have on premises, you will not have direct access to them. Second, you must have a basic understanding of software development. I do not mean that you need to be an expert in C Sharp or Java. Rather, you need to know some basic concepts around development, including things like end-tier development. This course will cover an overview of Azure, including what is meant by IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, features of Azure PaaS, and some challenges of moving the code into the cloud. First, an overview of Azure. Azure is Microsoft's cloud-based offering. Again, this means the actual hardware will be running in Microsoft's data centers, not somewhere where you have direct access to them. It was released in February 2010 when it was referred to as Windows Azure. It has since been renamed to Microsoft Azure to better align with Microsoft's message that you can do more than just Microsoft Windows in Azure. It currently has over 100 different services, with new services being added all the time. It also currently has 62 compliance offerings, including HIPAA, FedRAMP, Australia's IRAP, UK's G-Cloud, and many more. This means that you can trust Azure to be as secure as possible. Finally, 90% of Fortune 500 companies use the Microsoft Cloud. Microsoft currently has 42 different Azure regions, either existing now or coming soon, spread throughout the world. This includes commercial as well as United States government-only regions. This means that almost no matter where in the world you are, there is an Azure region close by to provide you with quick responses. It also means that you can duplicate your Azure environment in various areas around the globe for disaster recovery scenarios. It should be noted that there are typically multiple data centers in each region to provide for redundancy, so even if you have all your services located in the East US region, you can still spread out your services amongst the various data centers in the region. What is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS? IaaS stands for Infrastructure as a Service, and this includes features like VMs, networks, firewalls, and switches. Everything that your typical on-premises operations team would normally take care of. PaaS stands for Platform as a Service, and this includes development and deployment features like web hosting, databases, including Azure SQL and Azure Cosmos DB, and queues. SaaS stands for Software as a Service. This means the entire application is hosted in the cloud, and all you need to do is configure it. Some examples include Office 365 and Salesforce. Let's take a look at an example that may make more sense to you. When you want to have a meal, you have various choices ranging from making it yourself to going out to a restaurant. If you make it yourself, you are responsible for all the tasks and tools needed for the meal. This is the same as having an on-premises environment where you are responsible for doing everything from setting up the hardware, connecting it to the network, setting up the operating systems, and patching it. You could go to a store and buy a pre-packaged item, bring it home, and cook it. This is the same as IaaS. In this case, the food is made, but you are responsible for everything else. Much like in IaaS, the server is set up for you, but you need to do everything else with your VMs, including connecting them to the network, setting up the operating system, and patching. You can also call and have your food delivered, in which case you just need the drinks and set up your table. This is like PaaS, which is where we're going to be spending all of our time in this course. In PaaS, the hardware and operating systems are already handled. You just need to set it up and use it. Finally, you can just go out to a restaurant and eat. This is like SaaS in that you don't have to worry about setting up the hardware, network, operating systems, or patching. You just need to configure it and go. Why would you use Platform as a Service? First, there are no licenses to buy. If there is a license fee, it is rolled into the price of using the service. There's no hardware to set up like you would using VMs. The only thing you would need to do is to select the size of the underlying VM, and in some cases, like Azure Functions, you do not even need to do that. You pay for what you use. If I'm running a website that needs to be on 24/7, 365 days a year, then I'll be paying for all that time. However, if I have a website that I can turn off on weekends, then I only pay for the time that is actually up and running. Automatic scaling. If I'm running a web application that I use to sell items and it gets swamped on Black Friday, I can set it to automatically add more instances of my web application so I can serve more customers. And once the rush is over, it can automatically scale back down to its normal size. Geographically distributed means that I have the option of running my code in many different regions all over the world so that customers can automatically get sent to the closest region for better performance. Or, in the case of a disaster, all users can go to a different region if my primary region is down. Efficiently manage the application lifecycle means I have control over how my code gets pushed into Azure and when it's actually moved into production. What are some of the challenges moving code into the cloud? Legacy code. If you have an older application where perhaps the people that wrote it have left or it uses older technologies, you can still move it to the cloud through the use of containers, which will be discussed later. New technologies to consider. Do you use Azure SQL or CosmoDB? How can queues help you? Can I store my information in a table? Azure provides many features to help you develop your code, with new ones being added all the time. New methodologies. How can I move my application into the cloud? Do I move all at once or a piece at a time? Can I use a hybrid approach where some of my code will be running on premises and the rest in Azure? New issues to consider. What if I cannot access Azure SQL for my code? Do I just retry it again and hope for the best? How can I ensure that I can handle all the messages being passed into my code? Certain devices can pass in many messages a second. Can my code handle it? Let's take a look at some of the products that Azure offers. This is the Azure homepage. You will notice there is no actual PaaS category. Instead, Microsoft breaks the products down into different categories like compute, networking, and storage. Inside each category is a mixture of IaaS and PaaS products. For instance, if we look at the compute category, you will notice that virtual machines are listed, which is an IaaS product. But further down the list is App Services, which is a PaaS product to host websites. To recap, Azure is Microsoft's cloud offering, meaning that it is comprised of an extremely large collection of servers spread through many data centers, and unlike your servers you have on premises, you will not have direct access to them. Microsoft Azure has 42 regions around the world that can be used to host your Azure environment, and each region can have multiple data centers to allow for redundancy. PaaS stands for Platform as a Service, and this includes development and deployment features. With PaaS, you are not responsible for everything that you would be with IaaS, but more than you would be with SaaS. There are many benefits to using PaaS, including not having to install the operating systems or worry about patching the servers you use. Moving to PaaS and cloud development in general has its own set of challenges. In the next videos, we'll be taking a closer look at some of the PaaS offerings, including containers and artificial intelligence. We will also look at some of the design patterns and architectural decisions that can be used to make your cloud applications more robust. Thank you for watching an introduction to Azure Design implementation, and I hope you will continue to watch the next videos in the series.